So you want to start a reading journal, but you don't know where to start. Everything is daunting and you don't want to spend a lot of money in it. That's fine. We're going to be going through it together. I'm going to show you a few very easy spreads to do, and we're going to keep it at a minimum price. In this video, I'm using the Faber-Castell Roller Micro in 0.5, the Unipin Fine Line 0.5 in both dark grey and light grey. They are part of a set with other pens, including black and different tips. This Uniball Signo in white, in case we do any mistakes and we fix them very quickly. Any type of color pencils. I'm using Faber-Castell in 24 colors, but anything will do. A roll-on tape, even though you can just use a glue stick, that's perfectly fine. I'm also going to be using those stamps that are every letter of the alphabet, and with them I'm going to be using an ink pad from Pelican in black. Those two are easily findable on Amazon and are very cheap. Our first spread is going to be the yearly stats, with each line representing 1 month with some different stats to track through the year. I'm going to be tracking the number of books I've read, the number of pages and chapters, the number of 5-stars I'm giving, if they are ebooks, physical, library or audiobooks, and how many books I've been buying each month. So we start with a very simple table. We want to keep everything consistent, so every box for the month is going to be 6 by 2 squares. Same thing for the categories at the top, they're going to be 2 by 6 squares, and so every box in the middle is going to be 2 by 2. This ensures that everything fits perfectly on the page and that we've got enough space to be writing down the numbers for each stat. We are writing the different months on the side to make sure we track everything and that all our stats fit on one page. In total, this table is going to be 12 cm wide and 15 cm height. And we're going to be adding also a little title at the top. I've pre-created the titles on some piece of paper that are a different color to make them pop, but you can stamp them directly on the page, or you can also just do some calligraphy if you feel like it. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just have to be there. As you can see, I am gluing the top, and then I'm going to come with the pencils and I'm going to be coloring each of the different boxes to giving it a pop of color and make it look nice. I'm starting with yellow and I'm going through the colors of the rainbow all the way to brown, so it matches the beginning and it looks coherent and perfect. Those pencils are not the highest quality, but they get the job done, and further down the line, if you feel like you want to continue, you can buy better colored pencils, or you can even switch to highlighters if you want, even though they are a bit on the pricier side. For now, we're keeping the cost low, so the color person will have to do. You can find them on Amazon, at any local store, or even in a bookstore. If at any point during this video you feel like you don't want to do one of the spreads, that's more than fine. You can just skip and you can adapt to what you feel will be useful to yourself. This is your journal after all, and if you do not want to keep track of this or that, you are more than welcome to stop at any point, and you are welcome to change anything. You can obviously change the name of the categories, you can have less categories, whatever it is you feel will work for you. Now we are moving on to the yearly tracker. It is also a tracker we can find in some bullet journals, which is basically a year at a glance with each box representing one day. The main difficulty with this one is to make sure that the boxes at the bottom match the number of days per month. So you're going to go up and down a tiny bit so that you can show 31 or 30 boxes depending on the month, and be careful about February, which has 28 or 29. On the side, I'm going to be adding a little caption with 4 different boxes, and that's going to be for counting how many pages per day I'm reading. So I've got between 5 and 20 pages, between 20 and 50, 50 to 100, and then 100 plus. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can just You can use only one color and just track which days you are reading instead of tracking the number of pages. As you can see, I did a tiny mistake, so I fixed it with the white pen. That's very useful when you make tiny mistakes with your lines or with your writing. And for example, here I'm showing you how that works. Every day you just color the page. Our next spread is going to be the Read It challenge, especially if, for example, you do the Goodreads challenge every year with the number of books you want to read in. We're going to start with 12 different boxes at the top for each of the months of the year. And we're going to be using 4 different colors 3 times to show a little gradient. I've decided a gradient between dark blue and dark purple, but you are more than welcome to be choosing your own colors. Then we're going to be drawing boxes. Each box is 2 by 2 with 1 square of space between them. In total for these spreads, that's give me 72 boxes, which is quite a lot of books. I've never managed to do this, but if you want, you can have more or you can have less. You can spread it on 2 different pages if you want. It takes quite a lot of time to do all those boxes by pen, but you can do it freehand if you want. It's a bit more messy, but if you like the look, that's fine. We're going to go put the initial of each month and then color coded them. I don't have a lot of colors to make a big gradient of 12 different months, so instead I've chosen 4 to repeat. This way it's a bit more coherent and it looks nicer to me. As you can see, I go back to make more blue because the 2 blues were looking a bit too much like the same when I didn't press enough. And then of course we're going to be numbering each of the boxes so we know exactly how many we are reading. If you don't feel like doing 1 month per color, you can track the different ratings, 1 to 5, you can track the different genres of books, anything will work. Then we're going to be doing the book bingo. Beforehand, I calculated where exactly the middle of the page is so I can center the table. I'm going to do a 3 by 3 table with each boxes being 6 by 6 squares. I'm going to add the different categories, and if you don't have any idea, you can look up online. Plenty of different bingos exist and you can adapt that to your reading preferences. Mine are always about fantasies, tropes, because that's what I'm mostly reading, but you can also find some for romance or science fiction if that's more your vibe. And then we're going to be going on a page that might be a bit daunting if you just started, which is the bookshelf. I know, so many of them look so pretty on the internet, but it doesn't have to be too complicated. Don't worry about it. We are going to start with the shelves themselves. They are 1 box tall and they go all across the page. There's 3.5 centimeters between each of them, which allow us to put plenty of books and decoration. The decorations are obviously optional, but I'm going to show you some very easy ones to do to make a bit prettier on your shelf. But first we're going to start with the books. I usually give them a width of 1 or 2 squares and then 4 or 5 squares height. I like to put them together and stack them to give a bit of difference between different rows. I like also to change the height of them to give a bit more credibility to it and to make it look nicer. Usually, and especially for the stacks of books, I like to round the corners a tiny bit to make them look a bit more authentic. As you can see, I'm free drawing all of them because after all the boxes I had to draw, I didn't want to use the ruler again. But if you want them to look neater, that's fine with me. You can just use the ruler and go crazy about it. As you can see on the second shelf, I've added a potted plant. It doesn't look like much yet, but we're going to add a bit of color and it's going to look much nicer. Also on the third shelf, I've added a little plate with some candles. And on the last one, I'm adding some mushrooms in a glass case. It's really easy drawing, but if you want, you can just go on Pinterest, look at some example and try to copy those. On the bottom shelf, I'm going to be adding 4 books that are exactly the same size, and I'm going to number them 1 to 4 in Roman letters. The reason I'm doing this is if I want to have a book series, then I can add them and it looks like big encyclopedias. To create the leaves of the plant, I'm going to use 3 different shades of green, and I'm not being neat at all about it. I'm just going with squiggly lines, giving it a bit of texture and making sure that it looks nice, okay? There's nothing neat about it, it's just trusting the process. And as you use the different colors, it gives it a bit of relief and a bit of reality to it. Then I'm going to use a different color to color the pot, and here we go, we've got a nice little plant ready to go. I'm also going to be coloring the mushroom in red for the top and in some kind of beige for the bottom to make them pop a little bit. And I'm going to use a light brown for the base. Next are the candles. I color the wicks in orange, then a little halo of yellow, and I finish with some gray. Then I'm coloring the vase in blue to make it pop a tiny bit more. And here we go, we've got our shelves. We finish with some brown to be doing the shelves themselves. The rougher you go, the more it's going to give you that wood texture that makes it a bit more real. So just don't worry about making it neat, just go for it. You can change the pressure of your pen to make it look a bit more real also, and go rough. And here you go, you've got your bookshelf ready to go. Then I'm going to do the series tracker for the different book series I am reading. First, I'm going to be dividing the page in 2 so I've got more space to write. And then I'm going to be writing the book series and then the different books in that series to track how many I've read. We are going to use the color pencils as a kind of highlighter for each of the book series, but if you've got a proper highlighter, now is the perfect way to use it. I do recommend you do the highlighter first and then write on top of it. This way the highlighter doesn't smudge the ink and it looks way neater. Here I'm going to be using the blue and I'm going to use that as a highlighter. The first one I'm doing a bit messy, but the second one I'm going to use the ruler and draw a box around it, so this way it's a bit neater. Feel free to use whichever you feel is more up your alley and whichever you feel is better for you. You can also keep it coherent with always the same color, or you can use different colors for different series, whichever way works for you, whichever you prefer. And then we're going to be doing 2 pages that are quite similar, but for the first one is going to be empty the TBR, and the second one is going to be a year in book. If you're like me, you know that collecting books and reading books are very different hobbies, even though they kind of go. So that's what the TBR is for. You're going to be listing all the books that are on your shelf that are still untouched, and then through the year you're going to go and tick them off every time you read them, with the goal to empty the TBR so you can buy new books. And then a year in books, you're just going to be tracking which books you've read last year. As you can see, one of them I've done neatly with a ruler, the other one I freehanded. It depends on the look you're going after and if you want it to look neat and precise or just want vibes. For the empty the TBR, I'm going to put a bullet point next to each one. This way I can tick them off as I go when I read each of them. And then for each page we've got the title, the date read, and the star rating. This way you can keep track of everything as you want. This is obviously an option and you can change whichever categories you want. They started and they ending, for example, if it's an audiobook or not, whatever you want. Now that we are done with our yearly spreads, we can move on to our monthly pages. The first one is the monthly read and it's inspired by Erin Smith and what she does every month in a journal. So first I'm going to be drawing a calendar that represents this month. Each box is 3x3 squares, so it's nice and compact, and then at the bottom I'm going to be adding a box where I can track the books I am reading. For this example, I've decided to keep it simple and not put the days on it, but feel free to add the numbers in a corner if that's more helpful to you. There are several ways you can be using that. You can be writing the number of pages you've read in each day, or you can just be tracking, like I'm doing right now, when you are reading each book. I'm associating each book to a color, and I'm drawing a line on each of the days I've read. This way I can track how long it took me to read a book, which days I read it, and if I had to take a pause to take another. is particularly useful if you're like me and you don't exactly track the dates of everything you read. Next, you're going to do the monthly stats, which is just how many pages I've read each day. I'm doing 2 lines, the horizontal one for the days of the month and the vertical one for the number of pages. The way it works is each box is 5 pages. This way I can track more than 100 pages a day for each book, which is roughly what I read the max. I like to track the number of pages because I like to see if there's any kind of pattern to my reading. Do I read more during the weekends? Am I too tired on every Wednesday to read? Those kind of things. So every day I draw a line with the number of pages I've read. Finally, we're going to be doing a page for a book review. We are going to keep it super simple with a box around the page, and I'm giving a margin of 1 square all along to make it breathe a little bit. This year, every book cover I'm printing is 3.5 by 5.5 centimeters, but in a previous journal I did 2 centimeters by 3 centimeters. If you don't have access to a printer, you can always go to your local library. They usually have printers on hand. On the side of the cover, I am writing the title, the author, the genre of the book, when I started it and when I finished it. Usually I also add the rating right under and the number of stars, but I completely forgot this time. And then you just have to write the review, and here you have it. We've got all of our spreads ready to go. Like I said, you don't have to do all of them, just track whatever is easy for you to do. I really hope you found this video helpful, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I post every week on this channel. Goodbye!